Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action.
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. Even though I did the interview with the directors of Futropolis on March 4th, the James River Film Festival actually starts this weekend and runs through April 4th. So if you want to catch up and find out more about that film, I'll post that podcast on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
Steffi, I can feel it. Something magical is going to happen tonight.
Looking for my friends? Where are they? Please tell me.
I cannot tell you. I will show you.
That was a clip from the trailer for Mom, I'm on Drugs, which will be screening April 1st at the ICA. We'll be hearing from director Ken Brisby later, but first, the ICA is short for VCU's Institute for Contemporary Art, which has continually shown films in their auditorium since opening in 2018. Today, Amber Aceva, Senior Curator and Director of Curatorial Affairs, and Mimi Luce, Head of Program Production, will join me to talk about the numerous offerings that are available at the ICA.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Scarpetta on Prime Video. Longtime Richmonders know that Patricia Cornwell, who by the way is the #2 female author in the world, used to live here and placed the mysteries of the titular forensic pathologist in Virginia. Sadly, this was shot in Tennessee. Turns out, this series is a pretty standard crime drama, but what sets it apart is the amount of time devoted to the dysfunctional family at the center. Nicole Kidman and Rosie McEwen hold the title role in two different time periods, Kidman in the present, McEwen 28 years earlier. Jamie Lee Curtis and Amanda Righetti are cast as her sister, and so on. As a result, the first episode seemed muddled and confusing as we try to figure out who's what when. The mystery later unfolds with the expected twist, and although the end solves this season's killer, it's left with a cliffhanger. Meanwhile, much time is spent with this group, none of whom are especially likable. Kidman and McGeehan have a shutdown persona, typical for Kidman, while the over-the-top performance by Curtis gets extreme until she moderates it later in the show. The writers let the ball drop by using current phrases like off the table and optics in the past, and staging one scene in a 1998 cinema with recliners, which didn't show up for another 20 years. The series does have some merit, especially using some of the new technology, which does get shuffled aside without completion. Considering the cast, this could have been much better. Instead, it's competent, but not exceptional. By the way, Cornwell shows up in the first episode, swearing in Scarpetta. I gave Scarpetta 3 out of 5 stars. First of all, I want to ask you, who are each of you and what do you do at the Institute for Contemporary Art?
So I am Amber Aceva. I'm the Senior Curator and Director of Curatorial Affairs at the ICA. I've been here for about 10 years now and have been responsible for developing the exhibition program primarily, all of the activities that surround exhibition programs. So publications, public programs, so on and so forth.
And films in this case.
And films. So I'm really have started my path here as an exhibition creator and now have stepped into a role where I'm doing that still, but I'm also doing some artistic direction and making sure that things are aligned more globally as part of the ICA's activities.
And Mimi?
I have a background in art history and I am a musician as well. And I use both of those backgrounds to produce programs here at the ICA. Work very closely with Amber and the rest of the team to get things going and launch them.
Now, when you say programs, what kind of program? Obviously, we're going to talk about film. That's one of them. Are there other program types?
Name a program and we do it, Jerry. Symposiums, workshops, lectures, events, openings. Really anything that involves the public coming into our building and just us trying to make it a welcoming space for them and throwing parties too.
There you go. Been to a couple of those. They're always fun. Yeah. First of all, before we get into the juicy stuff, I want to ask each of you, since we're talking about movies, your favorite movie of all time or something you've seen recently that you thought was really impressive.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I can answer the favorite movie of all time question because that has various categories from child mind to adult mind to artistic mind. But I'll say that a movie that I saw recently that has remained incredibly impactful to me has been The Zone of Interest, which is not that recent. It's like 2 years now, I guess, or maybe
Right,
one. I don't
right.
remember. But that movie was really, really important to me.
Footnote.
The Zone of Interest was a 2024 film about the family who lives next door to Auschwitz, where the father is a Nazi commander, and I'll post my review on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry. Ironically, last week I reviewed Nuremberg, which is a similar subject. It's now on Netflix. Powerful, powerful film. I highly recommend it. Mimi, how about you?
Well, we recently did a film series for Black History Month with Brandon Shillingford, who runs the Exposure Film Club here in Richmond. And we'll talk a little bit about our partnership with him. But one of the films that he screened was To Sleep with Anger. It was just one of the most amazing films I've ever seen, the way that family life is shown in a really compassionate and also like very realistic way. And it was just also just really funny and creepy. Loved it.
Footnote.
To Sleep with Anger was a 1990 film starring Danny Glover as an old-fashioned Southerner who brings all kind of superstitious beliefs into a divided LA family. That's the line from my 1990 review, by the way. You teased a little bit already. There are several different programs going on at ICA. Let's talk about those programs one at a time. What do you want to start with? The Caddis Foundation?
Let me say a couple things about our overall approach to some of these programs, and then I'll talk specifically about the Caddis Foundation, or the Caddis collection, I guess is a more accurate way of talking about it. Since our opening, the ICA's auditorium has really been, in a large part, the heart of the ICA. Of course, all other aspects of the buildings have sort of arteries that lead into that, but it's our kind of central discursive space. So the space where things get unpacked, things get discussed, things get argued sometimes. It happens to also be like the warmest site in our building, right? Being that it's still modernist, but it has a warmth to it that allows us to have those conversations and discussions. We usually don't just show things for the sake of showing them. There is usually a discursive component or a time post an event to discuss things with either the film director or the program director or the partner. This year, we're leaning into that site and the space of the auditorium as really the heart of ICA's discursive programs. There are film programs that will be coming out distinctly from the exhibitions on view in the summer and the fall.
So that means the shows that are in the ICA now have a filmic element to them.
Exactly. The shows that are in the ICA starting this summer and into the fall all have some sort of filmic component that will be seen or accessed in our auditorium. We also have a very robust community partnership program, which we will talk about later in detail with New Richmond filmmakers. But essentially, this spring saw a whole suite of film programs out of this partnership that we have with the community, where people like Brandon Shillingford are coming to the table with a curatorially developed program. We also host other types of film programs that belong to artist-specific projects that are not part of ICA's exhibition. So a visiting artist might do a lecture on some of their work and the filmic components as a one-day standalone events. A lot of community partners also do just one-off screening events, whether it's Black History Month or whether it's a week of Indigenous activities that we see with the Pocahontas Festival. So there is all to say there are a lot of different ways that film shows up in our auditorium. This year, we have a new initiative, and that's in partnership with Caddis. So Caddis is a holder of a global collection of objects and media works. Our partnership with Caddis is a multi-year partnership that starts this summer with a program called Double Takes.
Before you go into that, let me just ask you, these are not obviously commercial films. Are they foreign films? Are they art films? Or what?
They are art films primarily. Some of them are documentation of performative artistic activity or process, but they are art films.
Okay.
And so they're films that you would really see within the context of an exhibition that we're isolating as a exhibition just through Caddis collaborations. So in our exhibition program, we have utilized this biennial structure. And if you're not familiar with that, these are these huge art world events that happen all over the world, Venice, Germany, where people flock to a country to kind of experience the most cutting edge art. So part of our mission here curatorially is to understand that that requires privilege, access, and money to fly around. So we are really intent on bringing some of those foremost filmic or otherwise exhibition activities to the ICA. So our framing for Caddis collection is to identify a group of works that have either been made for a biennial, triennial, or have been shown in those types of activities. This year, we have a suite of 5 films that will open to the public and have daily screening times available in our auditorium, 7 days a week.
Wow.
They will include 5 films that were either produced or made for biennial, and will really span the globe on where the films are coming from and who they're made by. These films are from Chile, Sharjah, Guatemala, the Philippines, and Ukraine.
Great, cool. And those are free?
Those are free to the public.
Right.
They're part of our exhibition programs. They just happen to be in the auditorium. People can choose a day and come and watch a film, one film on one day, another film on another day, or tackle the entirety of the program, which is roughly 2 and some change hours long.
Wow. So you kind of can curate your own film festival.
Exactly. And so we're really excited about that. That partnership extends into the fall, where Caddis video collections will be used by faculty member as a point of their curriculum. So this is not a public program, but it's basically functioning as a library database where people can use contemporary art as a teaching tool. So that will happen this fall. Next spring, we hope to highlight some of the most successful videos that were used as teaching tools through public programs that the wider public can have access to. And then in 2027 and 2028, we will be engaging with Caddis object collection, but we're focusing on film today.
So another series, of course, is the New Richmond Filmmakers. What's that about?
Great. So this is one of a series of film programs that we have planned with BCU faculty in the cinema department, specifically Yusra Bouchtia, who is the chair of cinema.
Footnote.
Bouchtia is a Moroccan-American filmmaker, and I'll include a link to my podcast with her on the webpage for this show.
This is the 3rd film program that we have worked on with her. Last year, we worked on 2 different programs that were about first features. So we were showcasing the first features of filmmakers. And this year, we decided we wanted to change it up a little bit, and we're showcasing new Richmond filmmakers. All 3 of the films that are featured are produced or directed or have cinematography done by Richmond creators.
Not necessarily VCU then?
Not necessarily VCU.
Okay. So what are these 3 this year going to be about?
So the 3 films this year are Saturnalia. It's an homage to the giallo genre.
And Vivian Owen was on the show talking about that, by the way.
Yes. It's actually like a theme of supernatural through all 3 films.
Oh, cool.
The other one we are going to be screening, Removal of the Eye, and it's directed by Prashant Kamal Lathian and Artemis Shaw. Prashant is actually taught at VCU, so that's how our connection. He has very deep roots to the Richmond community, and it's a really interesting, sort of unsettling film that's done in split screenshots, but also involves an exorcism. And then Mom, My Mom Drugs is filmed by Ken Brisby. He is a film worker here in Richmond. It is a completely no-budget film, and a lot of the actors are local Richmond creators.
Surprise guest drop-in.
Speaking of Ken Brisby, the director, he's dropped in to talk about his film a little bit. Ken, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So first of all, let me ask you where the title and the concept came from for Mom, I'm on Drugs. It's not autobiographical, I hope.
Maybe a little bit. In the 80s and 70s, the television genre film of after-school specials, Just Say No to Drug films, they would have these alarming titles, I noticed. So I kind of based the title. Yeah, I mean, the concept is kind of the PSA combined with the Giallo film and American or European fantasy film like Jim Henson films and stuff like that.
Footnote.
Giallo, which he mentioned, is a style of Italian-produced murder mystery horror thriller film. You mentioned 70s and 80s. Now, this film was shot, I believe, in the 70s. That was my first instinct. I got the guys on the skateboards, the short shorts, the cassettes, the Gang of Four t-shirt, Dungeons and Dragon. Is that the case? It was in the 70s, maybe early 80s?
The script says 79.
Okay.
So it was supposed to be around the turn of that time period, but I was born in 1980, so it's also about my experience 9 years old going to my first punk rock show.
Oh, okay. And who was the band?
I don't even know. In the film, we have about 30 bands. In real life, my brother had a bunch of friends over to the garage, and it just became a giant party. And I ended up experiencing that for the first time.
Who are some of your directorial influences?
Definitely Jim Henson, Jodorowsky, and Argento are very important to me. Basically, use of color and interesting cinematography, very accurate use of sound, which we may not have nailed completely in this movie, but we do have friends at Sound of Music Studio helping out for free right now on that.
Footnote.
Alejandro Jodorowsky is an avant-garde Chilean French filmmaker best known for El Topo and The Holy Mountain. Dario Argento is an Italian, most notably known for Suspiria. Now, you said Jim Henson. You mean the puppeteer Jim Henson?
Yes, Jim
Okay.
Henson basically taught me what a horrific scenario was, even as a child. Like before we were allowed to watch horror movies, I'd be like, I want to see this movie. My parents would be like, oh, I guess it's PG. It's kind of for kids. You could, I guess. Oh, I was like, this is the person that makes Sesame Street. They're like, okay.
Footnote.
Muppet creator Jim Henson also directed some weird films like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. Let me talk about casting. You said some of the members of the community and stuff. One of my biggest concerns about high school movies is that the kids are not high school age. These kids were not high school age. Why did you decide to use people who were easily in college, if not older, to portray teenagers?
Well, basically, it's because of the whole aspect of doing low budget films. You cannot actually use children for the most part as actors unless they have their SAG card, which then you have to pay a completely different rate. And independent films suffer from that. So sometimes you will notice little changes in age. I think we nailed with my friend Davis, we might have nailed them though, because playing a queer character or trans character when you're that in real life and then having a gender reversal, it actually added to the fact that some of the actors did not look their part, but I love how Davis fit in. He actually asked if they could be in the movie at one point. And I was just like, yeah, sure. And they're like, there's no female parts anymore. I was like, do you want to play a boy? That's how you identify, right? They're like, yes. They're like, oh my God, I could do that. I was really excited because it worked out in a lot of ways for that reason.
Which is kind of very unusual for the early 80s to have someone trans.
This movie is supposed to be a representation of that culture at the time, but a more forward-thinking version of it that never really existed back then.
And actually, we did have two trans women in our community in the mid-70s. And I noticed you used practical effects, not CGI. How did you create those? Or don't give away any secrets if you don't want to, but why did you want to do it that way, and how did you create those?
All films during that time, they're using blue screens, they're using puppetry, they're using stop motion. It was part of the film process to challenge myself. If I want to emulate this stuff, I cannot use CGI. Otherwise, it does discredit to homage directors that didn't have access to things like that.
Right, right. Now, you mentioned SAG earlier. Were the actors all paid SAG wages?
No. Nobody was actually in SAG, so everybody got paid $1,000, I think, when they had main character speaking roles.
So what's next with you with this film, or have you got something else lined up?
This film doesn't seem to end. I would like it to be over with, but it's kind of like an ongoing thing of people having interest in it and then have to go back to the film. Like I was saying, we were remixing and mastering the sound, hopefully to get interest in any other producers that are on the lookout to pick up a film of this type. That and like getting it ready for streaming services and Blu-ray and DVD release.
So Mimi, why did y'all choose this film?
Ken's one of our best up and coming New Richmond filmmakers.
Oh, short and sweet. There you go. Okay. Ken, anything you want to add before we get back to talking about the other series?
I'd rather not blabber on. I tend to do that.
We can hear you blabber on more on April 1st
Oh, there we go. You'll be there
Yeah.
for the
at the
screening with the
ICA.
Q&A. Right.
Yes. I may be nervous during the Q&A, but I do want to do it. I want to see if anybody has any good questions about it. I'm very interested.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you. Nice meeting you, Jerry.
Let's go back and talk about some of these other programs we've got here. Mimi, what's next? The Community Media Center film workshops?
Yeah, let me talk about that. We are doing an ICA film lab, a Community Media Center film lab from June 26th to 28th. This is a 3-day intensive workshop for beginners that teaches filmmaking by doing.
Uh-huh. Kind of like a 48-hour film project, except it's 3 days. They come in and write it, shoot it, and edit it, the whole thing in those 3 days.
Exactly. So I want to give a shout out to our curatorial film assistant, Stone Thurman. This is really his brainchild, and I've been working with him to develop this. But we are essentially creating the conditions of a Dogma 95 film.
Footnote.
Dogma 95 was a Danish film movement that established rules for pure storytelling without built sets, artificial lighting, post-dub music, or computer graphics.
We are going to be shooting the film all within the confines of the ICA. So we're using the lighting of the ICA. The ICA museum will be the backdrop. We are not trying to add any additional bells and whistles with sound and whatnot and set creation. And it's going to be a crack team of new filmmakers who are getting together and figuring out how to make a film in the context of a museum. So it's really going to be one of the first projects of its kind.
Now, is that something that anybody could apply for, or is that already booked up?
Yes, we're going to be putting the invitation out shortly, and there will be an application process, but you do not have to have made films before. In fact, we're encouraging folks who have not made films, but who are artists and want to try to join.
Great. And we'll be sure to have a link on the website too. And Exposure Cinema?
Exposure has been around for a couple of years in Richmond. It's a film collective. Really, it's run by Brandon Shillingford and his friends. And Brandon has really he's been putting on these really beautifully curated film series that have a theme and showing them at different places at Studio 23, for example. And what's really great about Brandon's film selections is that the films are really fun, and then he always gathers everyone afterwards to have a conversation about the films. So I feel like he's really upping the ante on sort of how we engage discursively with films.
And y'all are right there in the middle of First Friday. So there's the First Friday film series.
Exactly. So the First Friday films are really just coincidentally, we'll be screening a lot of these films on First Fridays. We've been trying to revive First Fridays. So, for example, Prashant and Artemis's film is going to be shown on First Friday on April 3rd.
So that's hitting us for spring. How about next year when school's back in session? You have more things planned?
Yeah, we have a lot of things planned. All three of our exhibiting artists have some filmic activities, starting with Diane Severin Nguyen, who will be exhibiting a solo exhibition. And as part of that, we'll be screening 3 works. One is a work called Tyrant Star, the other one, If Revolution is a Sickness, and the third, In Her Time, thinking about the histories of war propaganda, and media. We also have an exhibiting artist who has a big solo survey. His name is Tony Cokes. And as part of his exhibition, there will be an expanded film series that tackles some of his works on media literacy, race in media, media theory, and the role of DJ and music sampling in his work.
Wow.
And then last but not least is an artist named Cassie Namoda that will be also having a solo show at the ICA that will have some filmic activities thinking about the history of post-colonial African identities, where she hopes to fold in a series of films that have inspired her paintings.
Uh-huh.
So a lot more activities that will be happening in the fall.
As a member of the ICA, been there many times. It's exciting to hear all this stuff going on, and I want to thank you both for coming on to talk about it.
Awesome. Thanks for having us and featuring our programs.
Thanks so much for having us, Jerry, and we hope to see you at these films in April.
Okie dokie, thank you. That was Mimi Luce, Head of Program Production, and Amber Aceva, Senior Curator and Director of Curatorial Affairs, talking about the numerous film offerings at VCU's Institute for Contemporary Art. I'll have a link to the films plus a trailer to Mom, I'm on Drugs on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com.
Coming soon. In theaters.
They Will Kill You. Zazie Beetz plays a woman who takes a job as a housekeeper in a New York City high-rise, unaware of the building's evil history. Also with Patricia Arquette and Heather Graham. Alpha, a 13-year-old living with her mom, encounters issues when she comes home from school with a tattoo. Written and directed by Julia Ducournau, who created Raw and Titane. The AI Doc, or How I Became an Apocalyptimist. A father tries to figure out what's happening with AI, featuring many of the big players in the field, including Sam Altman. Forbidden Fruits. Lily Reinhart stars as a woman leading a secret witch cult at the mall when a new worker presents challenges. Stand By Me 40th anniversary, The Mummy Returns 25th anniversary, and the original Ben-Hur are all returning to the cinemas to celebrate their anniversaries.
TV and streaming.
Bait on Prime. Riz Ahmed stars as a struggling actor on the cusp of landing the role of a lifetime when he finds himself thrust into a full-blown existential crisis. Something very bad is going to happen on Netflix. From some of the creative minds behind Stranger Things and Baby Reindeer comes this horror series set during the week leading up to Rachel and Nikki's wedding. Hate the Player, the Ben Johnson story on Paramount+. This is a fictionalized version about the famous Canadian sprinter who won the gold medal in the 1988 Olympic Games but tested positive for drugs and was disqualified. Privileges on HBO follows a prison inmate who gets a job at a luxurious Paris hotel, but things turn sinister. Hannah Montana 20th Anniversary Special on Disney. Miley Cyrus's new concert with behind-the-scenes footage and interviews. Ready or Not Texas on Netflix. 2 South Korean reality stars head to the Lone Star State without any plans made or research to explore what the state has to offer. Martha Graham Dance Company, We Are Our Time on PBS. This is a 2-part documentary on the famed dancer-choreographer with Meryl Streep narrating. Next week, meet the director of Boys Go to Jupiter, which is coming to this year's Richmond Animation Festival. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.